this video we're going to look at some of the shortcuts that we can use to create a finger joint used in woodworking. So the first thing we'll do is draw a couple of rectangles to begin the process of creating our two boards. I'll start here with the first rectangle, and having identified our start point, I'll just type in 300, 20 and hit return. And for the second board I'm going to go to this end point and pull along to get the third point some distance, and then click to start, and I'll pull, and this time I'll say 20, 300 and hit return. Then I can use the push-pull tool to pull the first rectangle up a distance of 100, hit return, and for the second one I can simply pull up and then infer to the top surface there. And there I have my two boards ready to begin the process of marking out. I think just before I mark out I'll use the paint bucket to add a bit of realism. I'll just apply a wood, I think. I'll go for this one. I'll apply it here and all round. So having applied the wood material to all the surfaces, I can begin the process of marking out. I'm going to mark out all of the fingers on this board here first of all. So I'll pick the select tool and grab this top edge here. I'll select it and then use the move tool, and I'm going to click that line and pull down on the blue axis. Now first of all, SketchUp thinks I want to reshape that board, but when I hit Control on the keyboard, SketchUp realises that I just want to copy that small line. So I'll enter the distance that I want to copy it, and I'll enter a distance of 10 and hit return. And I can repeat that process and get another 9 of those lines by simply typing 9x and hit return. And that's all of the lines on the end grain in place. And I can now pick the push-pull tool and grab this face and pull in the right direction and type 20 and hit return. With the next one, I can pull in and I can just reference the one above. And having established that link, I can double click and double click to speed the process up. I'm now going to manoeuvre around so that I can use the select tool and grab all of that board there and right click and create a component. I will call that component side and create. And what I'm going to do now is take that board and position it overlapping the other board and then intersect the two. So I'll use the move tool while I've got that selected, and I'm going to grab that end point just there and position it on the appropriate end point on the other board just there. Then use the select tool to grab everything, right click, intersect, intersect with model. And now when I select that component, use the move tool and pull it away, I've transferred the geometry of all the cuts onto this board here. So I can use the push-pull tool to take this back, double click all the way down. Last of all, grab the component here, use the move tool, grab the corner, I'll just zoom in to grab the corner and position it like so. And there's our completed and assembled finger joint. So let's try a similar thing now with a dovetail joint on these two boards that are the same dimensions as before. First thing I'll do then on this board here is to mimic this edge and come in 20mm. So I'll use the select tool to grab that edge like so, use the move tool, and when I grab it, initially the board starts to distort, but when I hit the control button I'm able to make a copy of that line. I'll make sure I'm moving on the green axis, type 20 and hit return. For the next step, it would be more helpful if, rather than a perspective view, if I had a square on view of this face. So I'll go into the camera menu, select parallel projection, back into camera, standard views, and I'll go for a right view. And I'm now looking square on that face. I want to split this board vertically into 10 segments. I'm going to use a tape measure tool to help me do that. I'll grab that top edge and come down and type 10 and hit return. And I have my first construction line, and I'll just grab that construction line, pull down and type 10 again, and repeat that process until I have construction lines all the way from top to bottom. On this vertical edge now, I need to create a series of construction lines going alternately from this point up at the appropriate angle, and from this point down at the appropriate angle, and then up and then down. And I'll repeat that pattern all the way down. I'm going to choose 7 degrees as the angle for my dovetail, and I'm going to use the protractor tool to place the construction line. So I'll come down to this point here and I'll watch for the intersection. Just snap to the intersection there with my first click. With my second click, I'm going to define that horizontal construction line as the start point, and then pull up the way and type 7 and hit return. And I get a 7-degree construction line centered on that intersection there, 7 degrees up from the horizontal. While I've got the protractor tool, I'll come down to the next point, snap to the intersection there with the first click, second click on the horizontal line, pull down the way this time, type 7, hit return, and there I have my next construction line, and I'll repeat that process all the way to the bottom. What I need to do is pick the line tool, and I'm going to carefully pick this end point and go to the first segment. And it's worth noting that the line tool deselects here, so I'll have to click again at this point and then come along at the 7 degrees, and at the intersection with the 20mm line, click, and again note that it deselects, so click again on that intersection and come down and repeat that process, taking care all the way from top to bottom. If I've done that correctly, I should now be able to get rid of the construction lines and use the push-pull tool to get rid of the segments. So I'll use the eraser and scrub over all these construction lines here, and with the push-pull tool I'm going to grab that segment and push, and do the same for every alternate segment all the way down. And from here on in it's much the same process as before. I'm going to manoeuvre that round and get the select tool so that I can grab all of that board, right click and make it a component, call it side, and I'll use the move tool to carefully grab that corner there and grab that end point there. Select tool, grab everything, right click, intersect, intersect with model, so that now when I select that component and the move tool and pull that clear, transfer geometry of these teeth here onto this board here. So with the push-pull tool, grab that face into there and double click and do that all the way down. The final step in the operation is to select that component, move tool, I'm going to grab that endpoint right there and link it to that endpoint there, and that's my dovetail.